So today we're going to talk about sugar and cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease is really an umbrella term, and it kind of encompasses anything that causes problems with blood flow, kind of like when you have increased plaque or inflammation of any kind that can cause a problem with your blood flow. So cardiovascular disease is bad for obvious reasons. If you have trouble with blood flow, it's going to lead to other problems. I mean, your organs need blood to function, so it's going to lead to things like stroke or heart attack or possibly death. So I did some research on soft drinks and sugar, and they both tend to increase the risk for obesity, which should make sense. You're taking in more calories than you are burning off, so you're going to increase in weight. Hypertension, if you are narrowing the lumen of your arteries, obviously that makes sense as to how it would cause the hypertension. And dyslipidemia, which is just an imbalance of lipids in the blood. You've got more fat in the blood than you need to. That's going to cause the plaque buildup. And each of these are risks for cardiovascular disease. In a study, out of 184,000 deaths that were related to sugar, 24% of them were actually from cardiovascular disease. I just want to kind of touch on the debate that went on years ago where they were trying to figure out what was causing cardiovascular disease, and some people said it was red meat, and some people were saying it was the carbs and the sugar we were eating. And obviously the ones who said it was meat were the ones that won, and the government actually changed its recommendation and said that we should be taking in more carbs. And since then, it was around the 1980s, we've had a very large rise in the obesity rate in America and around the world, really. So when they made this change, they actually increased our risk for cardiovascular disease because people ended up eating a lot more sugary foods and tried to do low-fat things that were just high in sugar content. And you see this picture here, 5 grams of sugar, which, we don't think much of that. Jogging for 20 minutes or aerobic exercise for 30 minutes, and I think that's pretty incredible because most of the time I don't think, we look at anything sugar-wise and think, man, I'm going to have to really work that off. But I thought that was pretty interesting that it would take that long. I'm going to go a little bit into the advanced glycation end products, and these are in most cooked foods that we eat. So if you're going to cook something on your stove or on the grill, you might think twice before doing it again. But these cause increased inflammation. And like I said before, if you increase the inflammation, that would make sense. You're going to narrow the lumen and you're going to cause an increased risk for cardiovascular disease. This is the whole point of bringing in the AGEs into this. Decreased excretion in diabetics of this, which is important because diabetics obviously cannot store and break down sugar like they should. So if you think about it as in if you have bad sugar control, or in other words, too high of a blood sugar, that would increase the AGEs in your body and the inflammation and then lead to a higher prevalence of cardiovascular disease. Just kind of doing a recap here of how sugar raises your risk for hyperlipidemia, obesity, hypertension, improper AGE excretion, and it also increases your risk of developing diabetes, which are all linked to cardiovascular disease. So it's recommended that men have no more than 37.5 grams of sugar, and for women it's 25 grams. And I found in one study that the average is 82 grams per day, which is more than double that of what men are supposed to have. Also, Mountain Dew, having one 20-ounce Mountain Dew, just a bottle, would be like having 15 of your calories that you're supposed to have in a 2,000 calorie diet will be coming from that one Mountain Dew. And all of this sugar increases your risk for disease across the board. So I thought this one was interesting because, most of the time when people try to watch their weight and they're busy, they like to get these already made meals so you can microwave them and go on and still lose weight, which I have definitely done before. And in this particular one, the Healthy Choice, it has 23 grams of sugars. And I know you look below that and it's like, yeah, there's 21 grams of protein, but we're really kind of defeating the purpose with having the 23 grams of sugar. I thought it was pretty amazing that that much sugar was in one meal. So if you ate 3 of these in a day, you're well over what you're supposed to have. So I thought that was pretty shocking. So everybody loves yogurt, and a lot of us think that it's a healthier alternative to a cookie or whatever, you want to have for a snack. And we really push it for kids as well. So this is the tart cherry Noosa, and it has 31 grams of sugar. So I found that very interesting because I would have never thought that much sugar would be in one small thing of yogurt. So that has definitely made me rethink the whole yogurt is healthy. So you hear people talk a lot about how cereal has a lot of sugar in it, which is true. But we don't think about our oatmeal having a lot of sugar in it. At least I never really thought to look on the back. It doesn't taste very sugary to me, so I never really think to check the back of these labels. And it's 22 grams of sugar in this one. It's Quaker oatmeal. And this is just for a single serving, so this is like breakfast. So again, if you had, a couple of these a day, you're over what you need to have. And it's really not that much food. So I find it very interesting that we're taking healthier food choices and making them bad. So Nutri-Grain bars, these are actually something that when I was younger, I ate a lot for breakfast. Like when I was on the go, when I played sports and different things, and we thought, well, it says grain in the word, I guess was my reasoning behind thinking it was healthy. I never thought to look at the back of the label. The back of the label shows that there's 12 grams of sugar. And that's a lot more, I think, than I expected for as small as they are. They're not very large. So I find it pretty interesting because I would think that a Nutri-Grain bar, like if I had the choice between a Nutri-Grain bar and a Pop-Tart, I would pick the Nutri-Grain bar. But they're not very healthy because they are very high in sugar, and it's really just bad. Here's another great example of something that most moms will pack for their kids thinking it is healthy. And I thought so too. I have never thought to check how much sugar is in applesauce because it comes from apples. So it's, you see the apple on the front and you're like, oh, there's not much sugar in that. That's healthy. That's great. I'm going to send that, for my kid or for my toddler. And there are 22 grams of sugar. And the thing that comes to my mind is we wonder why obesity is such a problem and all of these different things that we've got going on with kids nowadays that we didn't have before. And this really opened my eyes to we are really filling kids full of sugar and stuff that we think and that, it's portrayed as something healthy. There's an apple on the front when really there's a lot of sugar in this, and it's just crazy. So everybody seems to be pushing for nut spreads. It's kind of a big thing now. This, I guess, instead of peanut butter, or this as an alternative to, I guess, a cookie. It's seen as healthier than that type of snack when in all reality there are 21 grams of sugar in 2 tablespoons. And I don't know if you've eaten Nutella, but I don't ever limit myself to 2 tablespoons unless they're in the really small packs. And either way, that is well over what we should be having for one snack. So it's kind of crazy that they're trying to say that it's a healthier alternative when really it's not. So whole wheat bread, and there's a big push. Everyone knows eat whole wheat bread. It's better than white bread, which in reality it is supposed to be better. It's supposed to help with fiber and different things like that. But then you have the sugar content, which no one expects to think about with whole wheat bread because it's supposed to be better. While yes, we have protein, but we have almost as much sugar in each slice. So it's pretty interesting to see that because if you think about 3 grams of sugar for one slice, if you have a sandwich, which most of us do, we use 2 slices of bread, that's 6 grams of sugar per sandwich. And in my mind, I always think a sandwich is a better alternative to something else. But really, even in our healthier alternative to white bread, we're still pumping this full of sugar, which seems crazy. So this is supposed to be a healthier alternative to chips. A lot of people like wheat thins and they think, oh, this is a great snack. But in one serving, you've got 5 grams of sugar, which is kind of surprising. I mean, they're crackers. You think, it's not that bad. But really, it still has a lot of sugar, and there's not, I mean, not think that you would need to read the labels for crackers, but obviously this supposedly healthy alternative is still pretty high in sugar for what it is. This one was probably one of the bigger shockers for me because when I think of soup, I usually look at the back of it and there's not a lot of fat. I mean, it's higher in carbs, but I have never thought to check the sugar content. So when I think of soup, I think healthy. And obviously from this label right here that says 16 grams of sugar in one can, and that's usually, we usually eat the whole can. That seems very excessive to me. I was very surprised by this one. A lot of people who like to go out and bike and be very active really like the Cliff Bars, and nobody really thinks that they should look at the sugar content because they're like, this is a lot of protein, this is great, we need this, to keep going on. And you look at the sugar content and it is 22 grams of sugar. And 22 grams of sugar is a lot for one bar. There's actually more sugar than protein in the bar itself. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that is the end of my presentation. These are just my references and another page. But in the end, sugar is in a lot of the things that we eat, and especially in a lot of the things that we are giving children that we think are healthier alternatives. And we really need to start watching our labels because sugar intake over time is going to lead to a lot of things that end up causing cardiovascular disease, and the rise in heart attacks and different things has been pretty high, and I think that it has a lot to do with our sugar consumption.